Hey, Friendo Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw View Money in the Bank 2011 edition, taped live during Friendo Fest 24. Oh yeah, listen to all this. I'm gonna dub in some crowd noise and some clapping
yeah, we're
and
about,
stuff.
What? Come on. I can't do math right now. 7 + 2, that's 9. 9 hours into it.
Yeah, So we're going full steam ahead, but one of the things we promised to do, and I think this actually goes back. Do we remember who requested this?
Was it Rich? No, he was Survivor Series.
Rich was the last one.
Yeah, then I don't know.
Somebody requested it. I have the donor list. Anyway, somebody requested during our last Friendo Fest that we do this for the charity thing. And so we're going to do it. I was happy to oblige this pay-per-view. Yeah. Actually, I'll be honest with you, like watching it now, basically 10 years after the fact, 9 years after the fact, I enjoyed it quite a bit. But this is one of the ones that was actually pretty enjoyable on a rewatch. At the time, like back in 2011, I can't say I really cared much about Randy Orton versus Christian. I was interested in the story this time around because so much time has passed. Randy Orton has not aged a day since then. Of course, we had the recent stuff with him and Christian on Raw.
Yeah.
But no, I was all in on that. Mark Henry versus Big Show. Didn't think I'd be into that, but that was good stuff. That was good stuff.
It was.
It's fun sometimes when you're caught within the black hole of storylines in WWE. It's hard to be interested, but with a lot of time looking back on them, it's like a cool little snapshot of what's honestly seems like yesterday, but there's so much about the pay-per-view that clearly is not. In the first, of course, is the atmosphere, the fans. We don't get that now. Probably be another year before we get that kind of thing again, where people are fine and comfortable and safe, standing next to each other, coughing in each other's mouths, chanting stuff. It's going to be
everywhere, all that. Yes,
it's going to be a ways off before we're there again. But man, it shows you. And I know it's a bit biased because it's a Chicago crowd, and Chicago crowds are great. Having a crowd, man, it really helps things.
Yeah, it does. It adds a lot to the atmosphere. It definitely does add a lot, especially to this show. The show most famous for CM Punk versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. A match that I think it was the first time Meltzer gave a WWE match 5 stars in forever.
It was a while, yeah.
Yeah. And so, with hindsight, one of the things we were talking about with our friendos during the show was, will this match live up to its billing? Was deserving, essentially, of the 5-star rating. Let's get that out of the way now. Since it was such a topic of conversation. In your estimation, does it hold up? Is it as good as the street fight we saw on Dynamite not that long ago?
So clearly, there is a different... I think clearly there is, in the eyes of the most esteemed wrestling journalist of the day, Dave Meltzer, there is a delineation between a 2020 5-star match and a pre-COVID 5-star match.
Well, I think he has said before that his criteria for the 5-star match is constantly evolving.
So,
he said that on Twitter.
Yeah,
about his ratings.
Yeah, because obviously, if you look at, I don't know, I mean, even this match versus, Flair versus Steamboat. I mean, this match, I don't know. I think this match kind of blows it out of the water, to be honest with you. I do think that when your star rating evolves, I don't think it should take into account, like, look, if no match in 2020 is going to get 5 stars because the atmosphere can't carry it to that, then so be it. Don't say, okay, we'll get 5 stars without putting an asterisk there. I mean, again, there's the caveat. It's his opinion. It's his thing. Clearly, this match is far more compelling than a street fight on Dynamite. That's a fine match. It's a fun match. I like that match. This has huge match feel, the way it was built, the story being told, the crowd, the actual meat of the match itself. I'll put it this way. If Okada Omega won, wasn't that 6 stars?
Yeah.
This is 5.5. This ain't that far behind. It really isn't. So yeah, I think it's pretty far up there.
See, what I'm watching it is a fine match. I think it's boosted a lot by atmosphere. Not that I'm saying that's a detriment to the actual quality of the match. The match is really good.
All great matches are, though.
Yeah. Every great match is boosted by the atmosphere. They all got to have huge fight feel, or at least the you got to feel like there's actually really something at stake in a match to really be invested in it. I would, in my mind, there is a separation between like this, which is a really good match, and something like Omega Okada, where it's not just the story being told, it's the crispness of what they're doing in the ring. Like especially like every one of Omega and Okada matches, like there's seemingly not a missed beat. There's no timing mistakes. Everything is crisp and basically perfect. And not that this was botch filled, it wasn't. I just didn't think it was as crisp. If you're comparing it to Omega Okada, I just personally didn't think it was as crisp as that. Is that a small quibble? Yes. Is it a 5-star match? That's subjective. Personally, it's really good. I think either of Shawn Michaels' matches against The Undertaker, I would rate higher, personally speaking. But again, it's a subjective thing, so whatever. I mean, if you think it's 5-star, great. If you don't, that's cool too.
I put it. Well, what would you rate it then? Because I think it's silly. Didn't he? I don't think he even gave the Michaels Undertaker matches 5 stars, and I would.
Yeah, he didn't give End of an Era 5 stars.
I mean, clearly those are huge matches. Huge matches. I don't know.
End of an Era might be my personal favorite WWE match, maybe ever, because the storytelling is so dang good.
It is.
Like the action is whatever. The action's fine.
Yeah.
It's not botch filled, but it's not the most interesting thing. But the storytelling is so good that it just supersedes everything else in my estimation.
Given,
sorry,
you mentioned one thing that I completely agree with. In terms of making the match feel important, I can't think of another singles match. Sorry, I can't think in the past 15 years of another singles match that in storyline, according to the story, felt as big as the WWE champion or the potential of a challenger to the WWE championship, which they treated far and away as the most prestigious title. Not only being on the line, but the challenger. And it was rooted in reality because CM Punk didn't sign a new deal until apparently the pay-per-view itself. About to up and leave with the title. And yes, did they see that through to our satisfaction? No. You've said many times, and I agree 100%, that CM Punk should have been defending this with other WWE-friendly promotions over the course of months. Now, given that we know, they know he's a draw. He's a ratings draw. They like draws. They're not going ratings draws. They're not going to have him disappear for months, at least a couple of weeks, and you're building up all sorts of buzz by him doing that. Now, given that never happened, the magnitude of this match in the story was so perfectly executed. It felt like a major deal.
It definitely did.
And how it ended. And to me, personally, that matters so much. If you can tell a story and make it feel huge, that goes into the match as well. Because in the urgency of the match, that could honestly, I totally respect what you're saying. It's kind of like music, how you and I look for different things. The crispness of the match, I respect. That ain't even close to being a priority for me. I mean, I don't want a botch fest, obviously, but the urgency with which the fight is being told, the story of the fight's being told, to me is everything. That's
yeah,
when I buy in.
Story is paramount, totally.
That's why I buy in. And so when I see a match like this, man,
we won't disagree that story is paramount. Obviously, I mean that's why we watch wrestling, because we want to see these stories told in the ring, 100%. But you know, if you have 5 matches and the stories are really captivating and you can invest in them, what's going to separate them is everything else. You know, I what would I give this match? I don't know. Would it be 5 stars? Probably not. Would it be much lower than that? No. You know, there's stuff that I prefer. Obviously, there's matches I prefer. There's matches that other people might that are really well received that people might rate lower than this one.
Just give
it's all a subjective thing.
Give me a goddamn number. Look, dude, we throw out star ratings for random episodes of Raw. Just give me a rating.
I'm filling an episode, man. It's food for thought.
I want to hear it's subjective.
I'm trying to say it's subjective. Just watch what you watch. Enjoy what you enjoy.
I want to hear what
4 and
your
2/3 stars. Shut up about it now.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted. That's what people like, man. Anyways, that's
they
good.
want to boil down
good.
to a number. I'm saying it's more than just a number.
You know what's funny? While we're talking about big matches, I'm going to throw this out there. I have to let my stupid dog out again, but I can still hear you in your response to this.
Very well.
I actually prefer over Michaels versus Taker, either of them, Michaels versus Flair, the retirement match there.
That's a good match.
I actually prefer that one.
They're all really good. I mean, like you're talking about the story and the huge fight feel, and there's stakes involved. It's not a title, but during that stretch of time, breaking the Undertaker's streak.
Oh,
yeah. Basically a title unto itself.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels' career. That's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. So all that added a lot of weight to those particular matches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But otherwise, across the rest of the card, I was really entertained. You know, sometimes we do these reviews, you know, like Survivor Series 98. It was fun to piece together how they told that plot. Mm-hmm. However, the matches themselves left a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. I thought that by and large, the matches on the show, a lot of fun.
They were. Some of the spots, though, as executed, you know, we were holding our breath for a few instances because it looked like somebody could have got really hurt. That spot where Jack Swagger and Kofi take the tumble off the ladder, that could have been really bad.
Yeah.
Evan Bourne get knocked off the ladder. Looked like he banged his head on the mat pretty hard. There's a couple spots with Daniel Bryan in the opening ladder match where, granted, it's we're viewing this through the perception now that he's had a ton of concussions.
Yeah.
So anytime he lands anywhere close to his head, you know, we tighten up and hope that he's okay. So, yeah, that like the two Money in the Bank ladder matches were both really fun. Orton and Christian was a really good match. But, you know, as we've always said, when Orton's inspired, when he's motivated, he is really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can be really good. But I think for a pretty long stretch, especially when we first started getting back into wrestling, both of us, it was after this Christian feud where I don't really think he was doing a whole lot that was really interesting. Like 2012, same thing. It didn't seem like between this and when he cashed in on Daniel Bryan, he didn't seem terribly motivated or anything really that interesting. So
yeah. So let's just dive into it. We had the first so first off, they of course recapped the major storyline in this, the CM Punk storyline. Then we got our first of 2 brand specific Money in the Bank matches. The first one was Smackdown, which at this point, I don't remember if they were already doing the Raw Super shows, and then the Smackdown was so clearly the B show, and they had like, it was heavy on recaps. They would tell some Smackdown stories a little bit here and there, but most of those stories happened on Raw. I forget if they were at that point yet, but
I recall.
But this match, I thought this was not a bad match, but it was the weaker of the 2 Money in the Bank matches.
And it was also the longer of the 2 as well.
Yeah. That being said, you can't argue with the winner here. And there were some really fun moments. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of this is just, you know, some of the contestants, you know, Sin Cara, original Sin Cara. You know,
you look great in this match. You look great.
until he got stretchered out.
Yeah, because Sheamus powerbombed through a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I noticed about this. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Those high impact spots, they treated seemingly more seriously here than they would now. You get powerbomb. Hell, when we were at Mania 31, there was a spot where who got powerbombed through the ladder ringside during the Intercontinental title ladder match?
Oh man.
There was no. I don't remember any trainers or medics coming out to.
Wasn't it Luke Harper that did it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Was he in that match? Was he the one who actually executed the powerbomb?
Was it Ambrose?
I don't remember. That sounds like it might be right.
Anyways, but like if that were to happen now, guess what? That person would get up in like 2 minutes later and get back in the match. You know?
Oh, dude, we just saw that. Where do we see that? Where we made fun of somebody no selling a thing. I mean,
okay,
AEW.
It was Ambrose that got power bombed through the ladder. Yeah.
Okay, who actually did the power bombing? Do you remember?
That I don't remember.
Okay. God dang it, I forgot. I don't know. Sometime this past week, we were talking about somebody no selling. It's like, oh yeah, he just got killed and then he sort of got right back up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, AEW is a little bit different in that, you know, their stuff is a bit. It's a bit looser, and so they'll take ridiculous number. It's like PWG stuff, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Harper powerbombing Ambrose
Mox.
through the ladder.
Brody Lee versus Mox.
Yep.
Anyways, so we had Wade Barrett. It was good to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Gabriel, also formerly of The Core.
Nexus before that too.
Somehow, a pretty over Sheamus.
Yeah, it still boggles my mind that he was getting cheered
In Chicago.
Well, I just always picture him. I remember he had a face run, and I mentioned this on the stream when he beat Daniel Bryan in 18 Seconds of Mania. He was a face then, but I just always, in my mind, see Sheamus as a heel.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, same.
A vast majority of the time I've been watching him at WWE, he has been a heel. And so it's still kind of a strange occurrence to see people cheer for him.
Well, I was one of those people back then.
You love his theme. I remember that.
There was a period of time when I liked Sheamus.
Yeah.
And then it was a short period of time. Anyways, we also had Cody Rhodes, of course, now of AEW fame, and Heath Slater. Before he did the I Got Kids thing. Yeah. And then, you know, I made a joke about this. Kane shows up, and I said, you know, Kane has been in every single Money in the Bank match in history. Not true, but he does have the record for the most number of Money in the Bank
matches. As of 2018, he did. That's like the most recent list. I mean, I feel I could look at the subsequent Money in the Bank ladder matches to see if he's been in any of those. Because it was Kofi, Dolph, and Christian?
So Kofi or Dolph might, depending on, I don't remember who was in, this year was Otis, Alistair, Daniel Bryan.
Neither Kofi nor Dolph were in it.
AJ. Okay. And then last year, I don't remember last year's.
I'll check.
Last year was Mustafa Ali, Brock Lesnar. Remember those last two.
It was Brock, Ali, Andrade, Corbin, Drew, Finn, Orton, and Ricochet.
Okay.
Orton's been in a few Money in the Bank ladder matches.
Seems like it'd probably still be Kane then, huh? Anyways, yeah, there was a lot of fun stuff here. Apparently, yeah, according to your notes here, Slater and Gabriel, they were feuding at the time, or you said it seems like
it seemed like it because they were at each other's throats.
Somebody in chat verified that. Apparently, because of the core stuff, they were doing that. Let's see here. Yeah, there were multiple spots when Daniel Bryan landed either on or near his head, and we're just counting those concussions.
Yeah, there was a brief Nexus reunion between Barrett, Gabriel, and Heath Slater. They were taking everybody out, and then Wade was trying to direct traffic, and while Gabriel and Slater were doing something, he tried to climb the ladder. Of course, he suffered at the hands of Gabriel and Slater thereafter. So the one spot, especially for Daniel Bryan, looked like hurt, was Kane and Sheamus hit the Doomsday Device. The Doomsday Device, on Daniel Bryan. He kind of landed on his head and shoulder a little bit. And that looks like that would have sucked.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, there was one moment where Sheamus is just dishing out bro kicks to everybody, and the crowd pops, and it's just weird. It's weird because especially now, the longest time he's been a heel.
Yeah.
Weird.
I always liked him, but in that way, you like sort of a mid-carder that you just want to sort of stay at the mid-card. I never really wanted more for Sheamus because by this time he had already been WWE champion around the time when I really wasn't watching all that much.
At the end, though, Daniel Bryan kicks Wade Barrett off a ladder, gets himself that briefcase.
Yep.
And then he would go on to cash in, I believe, at TLC, following a match between Big Show and Mark Henry.
And that's when his heel turn began. That's when he really started shooting up to the sky. That was so great. That was great stuff. Wasn't that the run where Sheamus took that off him in like 8 seconds?
At the following Mania, yeah.
So after that, we get a shot of Vince McMahon. 10 years has meant a lot to him.
Well, when you only sleep 4 hours a night, it takes its toll.
Yeah, I don't expect a guy just to not age. That happens rarely. Tom Cruise, Frankie Kazarian. But Vince McMahon, yeah, he's aged. He looked pretty great back then.
Yeah.
He shows up with Johnny Ace and a lawyer. Sadly, it was not Tommaso Ciampa.
No, nor was it Mark Sterling.
Who was probably in grade school. Then we got Brie Bella.
Bud.
Okay, dude, that's please the last time. Versus the Divas champion Callie Kelly with Eve Torres along for the ride. There was one ridiculously ugly bump in this match where Callie Kelly did like a handstand with her back facing the ring but on the apron.
Yeah.
And Brie, I don't know what she did. She
just dumped her basically face first on the floor.
Yeah, it was just like dunk.
And then Kelly actually did a pretty good job of really milking the moment because she kind of went down fairly slow.
Yeah.
And hits with a thud.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah.
So Kelly wins with the Famouser. She retains the title.
I like the Famouser, though.
Yeah.
After that, well, Big Show versus Mark Henry. I like your note here. Wow, Henry drop kicks ring steps into Big Show.
It was great because Big Show had the upper hand, and then Big Show was kind of against the ring steps, and Mark Henry was on the other side. And Mark Henry gets up and just does like a little jump, bang, drop kicks the ring steps into Show, and it was unexpected.
Yeah,
but it was awesome, and it was a good story beat because he gets Show gets back in the ring. Mark Henry hits a chop block, and Mark Henry's just working over Big Show's leg.
So I've always wondered. And I've heard various things about why they never pushed Mark Henry really until this point. Because what year was his? This was around the time of the Cena. The retirement promo. Wasn't this
like a couple years after that? Yeah. Was
it a couple years? Okay,
I think so.
I know that he had held the World Heavyweight Championship. What if I'm trying to think of ways. So because Mark Henry had already had a lot of storyline miles under him, and that's a difficult thing when you have somebody who has always been in storyline based off what he could potentially do, an underwhelming run. He was up until for the longest time he was number world heavyweight champion. He was always sort of a heavy, but he did the sexual chocolate thing. He had the thing with Mae Young. He did some goofy stuff. He did some not goofy stuff. He had so much under him. It's difficult to understand at a certain point when a guy just turns it on and he's supposed to be power ranked pretty heavily. You know what I mean? Somebody's been around a long time. It's difficult to say, okay, well, this guy is all of a sudden great. I'm trying to think in my head, Mark Henry could have been really cool leading a faction. Kind of how we see MVP right now. But MVP's already kind of old and he's also semi-manager guy. But great example. If Mark Henry was Brody Lee.
Yeah.
If he was Brody Lee back then, that might have given a different perception maybe to get him more over with fans in terms of, wow, I take this guy as legitimate enough to be a real,
I wonder if part of the reason that he had this feud with Big Show and then won this match was, to kind of in quick fashion say, here, Mark Henry, legitimate, believe him as a championship contender. Yeah. So, when Mark Henry started doing the Hall of Pain stuff, it was fantastic.
It really was.
So, anyways, the Henry working over Big Show's leg played it to the finish. So, Big Show set up for a choke slam, Henry kicks him in the knee a bunch of times, hits a world's strongest slam, only gets a 2 count though. So Henry takes a moment to get upset, then picks him up, another world's strongest slam, and then 2 splashes to get the win. And then he goes and gets a chair, brings it in the ring, puts it around Big Show's ankle, and then he hits a Vader bomb onto the chair. And that looked like a stiff. You know, we've seen times when people jump off the second rope and like stomp on the chair and stuff like that, which it might hurt, but it's not going to do damage. This looked like it could mess somebody up. And they really sold that Show was hurt. They went so far as to put an air cast on him. You know, so
I've never seen. You know, you see those every once in a while. We saw it recently with Bayley and Sasha. I've never seen one that looks so flush and like, oh, that's the point of having the chair there, as opposed to just sort of stepping on the back of it. Yeah, that was a really, really terrific sell job there.
Yeah, it was great. After that, we have Vince and Johnny Ace. They're kind of talking backstage a bit. There's a knock at the door. Josh Matthews enters. He asks Vince if he has signed CM Punk to a new contract yet. He says no. He calls Punk an ingrate. Says he offered him the largest contract he ever offered anyone and got turned down. And says CM Punk fans should not blame me. I did everything that I could do. And then Josh Matthews asks Vince, what did Punk say to you when he turned down the contract? And Vince said that Punk pointed at the door and told him to get out. Me, the chairman of the board, to get out. And then he blamed Cena for everything, pretty much, for being in this situation. And he says, if CM Punk leaves the building as champ, may God have mercy on John Cena.
Yeah. And then he said, Josh Matthews, get back into the Impact Zone. After that, we had our second and final Money in the Bank ladder match of the night for the Raw Money in the Bank contract. Alberto Del Rio rolling up in a nice, sweet banana yellow Lambo. With some sweet yellow. What's that?
No, the SNL skit with the Lambo in it.
Oh, Lambo. With some sweet yellow trunks. Kofi Kingston. Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
With knockoff Rage Against the Machine music, which we have learned was from a band called Age Against the Machine. That seems legally on just really
thin ice. Yes.
Thin ice, yeah.
Tenuous at best, yes.
Matt Sydal, a.k.a. Evan Bourne, and R-Truth, and Alex Riley and the... Geez, how many people in this? Alex Riley, The Miz, and Rey Mysterio. Gee whiz, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
so
6,
this was after,
7,
of course, The Miz had Alex Riley as like his heavy, essentially. His backup. This is after they had split. But I don't really feel like the story was advanced between them all that much. Maybe they kind of got it out of him. Because I believe Alex Riley cost The Miz the title during the cage match with him and Cena and Morrison. I think the pay-per-view after Mania.
That could be.
And so that led to their separation.
Yeah, but that was like April or May.
May, so it was like 2 months prior.
Did they mix it up at all in this?
Very little.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known. I mean, I'm pretty sure I watched most of this match. I didn't really get that they had a thing. You would think that'd be much more of a thing, huh?
But a bunch of high-flying stuff. They're all on the floor. Evan Bourne climbs up a pretty dang tall ladder, hits a shooting star press off that on everybody else.
That was really cool.
That was really cool. Then Miz and Bourne are on the ladder kind of brawling. Del Rio pushes it over. So Bourne takes a nasty fall and bumps his head on the mat.
Yeah.
Miz sells knee. So Nunzio, right?
Yeah, the ref Nunzio.
And a trainer come and check on him while Bourne rolls to the floor. Miz is led backstage. And then Bourne just gets back in the match eventually. Del Rio tries for a suicide dive and just whiffs on it. Just whiffs.
Yeah. Yeah, he got banged up pretty good. Like in his backstage interview afterwards, he had like a laceration here, one of his fingers like half falling off.
He cut his thumb, I think, yeah. There's a spot where there's a bunch of ladders in the ring, and everybody is on top of a ladder, and they're all batting at the briefcase. And so Del Rio's the first one to get flung off, lands face first on a ladder. Then Edgar runs up to keep Kofi from getting the briefcase, and in the process of them kind of fighting, the ladder tips over, and that spill was
It looked pretty really ugly, and it should have been a lot worse. Like,
yeah,
there's so many times.
Kofi was about 3 inches from kneeing Swagger right in the face.
Yeah.
Which probably would have the least, like, he might have lost teeth, broke his nose.
I'm always reminded, Triple H told that story about how one time he took, I want to say it was like a frog splash wrong from RVD, and like RVD's knee or something came across Triple H's throat, and like he couldn't breathe for a bit. And he had to go back because he thought he had like a crushed whatever right here, windpipe or whatever. That freaks me the hell out, man.
So everybody's down. Miz hustles out, starts to climb the ladder. Ray pulls him down, hits him with the sunset flip powerbomb. Then Ray starts to climb. He's getting his hands on the briefcase. Del Rio comes from behind him, tries to pull it off. Ray kicks him away. So Del Rio goes to the opposite side of the ladder, climbs that way. They're brawling up there, and then Del Rio pulls off Ray's mask. So then when he does that, Ray kind of leaps over to a ladder that's right next to it.
However, that spot was so seamless. Like, because Ray is supposed to be selling, oh my God, don't look at my face, I've got my mask off. And so, like you said, Del Rio just sort of shoves him. And Ray effortlessly, while selling the mask being off, just sort of leaps to the other ladder next to him and is just sort of there.
But the ladders all start teetering.
Yeah.
And then they all just kind of topple over like dominoes. And so there's supposed to be, I imagine the finish was supposed to be Del Rio tosses Ray the other ladder. He gets the briefcase. He wins. Instead, all the ladders, like 5 ladders in the ring, they just all topple over. So Del Rio has to set his ladder back up. I mean, if there isn't a perfect metaphor for his WWE run, I don't know what it is.
Right.
So he has to set the ladder back up, goes and gets the briefcase. He wins. After that, we had a Del Rio interview. He was complaining about even being in the match because I guess he had won some triple threat match, not too long prior to this. So he says, I was already number 1 contender. But he says in the main event, doesn't matter who wins because he's going to go out there and show everyone how great he is. He's asked if him winning Money in the Bank was destiny. He says, no, it's a mere formality. My destiny is becoming WWE champion. After that, Randall Orton versus Christian. There was an extensive recap package leading up to this match. And the match itself delivered. It was really good. The stipulation here was that Orton, if he had been disqualified, he would have lost the title. And so it was a really fun back and forth match. Christian hit him with a kill switch. Orton kicked out of it. And it got to the point where Orton's going for an RKO. Christian just kind of stumbles back, falls to the mat, kind of pushes himself back in the corner. And Orton approaches him, and then Christian just spits in his face. Hits him right in the mouth.
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, and so this upsets Orton. So he starts wailing away on Christian with ground and pound. The ref kind of peels him off a little bit. And then he just kicks Christian right in the front area. DQ, Christian wins title. Now what happens next is one of those instances where Orton, I guess, is the heel, but he does enough cool stuff that the crowd pops for him.
They basically bury Christian immediately because like you said, man, our supposition has always been wrestling fans, they just want to see people do cool stuff. And when somebody just annihilates another person and looks really cool doing it, it's one thing for Brock Lesnar to take Randy Orton and start elbowing inside his head. That ain't cool. That's disturbing.
Yeah.
But you do a bunch of cool wrestling moves where everybody's like, oh man, he's trying to put him through the table. He's trying to break the table. They're just going to pop for that. And it's funny because you can even see Randy Orton during this, like almost mocking the crowd and understanding this is probably not accomplishing the goal that we had in mind here, which is to get, which is to take the heel heat on and put on Randy Orton. Yeah. That didn't happen. And so immediately you're making Christian look terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
By having Orton just completely annihilate him. And that's why I think he only had the title here for like a month or something.
Yeah. So they go to replay of the finish, and then they cut right to Orton tackling Christian over the announce table. And so Orton gets up, grabs a monitor, clobbers Christian with it, stands over him on the announce table. There's some refs and stuff, saying, hey, don't do it. He RKO's Christian onto the table. Doesn't break. So he wanders off like he's going to leave, and he's like, no, I'm not done yet. He goes back, another RKO on the announce table on Christian. And the crowd is just eating it up because it's cool.
Well, okay, so a couple of people here in chat are pointing out that Christian was apparently supposed to be the heel in this.
Oh, all right.
Which still, when you have a good guy out healing the bad guy, like completely wrecking the bad guy, you're gonna then take any threat that this bad guy presents and rob him of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe there's the point. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't watching a whole lot of WWE television at the time. Yeah, me neither.
So and then it brings us to our main event that we went over in kind of broad strokes earlier. CM Punk versus John Cena match that we had both seen before. It's still really good. Mm-hmm. Holds up really well. You know, the idea that last thing Vince wants is for CM Punk to walk out of Rosemont Horizon, the Allstate Arena, as WWE champion. And he tries to pull another screw job, especially towards the end, because he and Johnny Ace walk out. And Cena has Punk in an STF. So, like, from the ramp, he's trying to call for the bell, sends Laurinaitis over there to have the bell rung. Mm-hmm. Cena intercepts, decks Laurinaitis, and he goes out to, you know, have a stare down with Vince on the ramp, turns around, walks in the ring, bang, eats the GTS. Punk wins.
Yeah.
And we get that great stuff where Punk's in the ring celebrating. Vince goes down to commentary, gets on there and screams for someone to send Del Rio out to cash in at that moment.
Yeah.
Del Rio runs in the ring, gets up, gets kicked right in the head.
Yeah.
Just right in the head.
Yeah.
And then Punk escapes through the crowd. We got that great shot where he has a belt, blows a kiss at Vince, walks up through the stands. There's a lot of really good back and forth. You know, each of them hit their finish once, and it gets kicked out of.
There was that ridiculous suplex from the inside of the ring to the floor.
Yeah.
That was just unnecessary.
Yeah, that's something that you don't see done in WWE very often anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, just real good stuff. And of course, you know, when he goes up to the crowd, raises the title, the sky is the limit at that point. Instead, they did the next week, or on Monday, they did an interim championship. The next Monday, he comes back.
So, like, the interim champion thing makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
But if that's the case, then have Punk out for a while.
Yeah, I know.
And if you're going to be out for a while, then have him do cool stuff with that title. That was such a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, he goes, you know, for even just 3 months, goes and defends the title of Ring of Honor or New Japan or something, work something out so that could happen. Mm-hmm. And he comes back and says, I literally defended your belt, Vince, everywhere around the world to prove that I am the best. Mm-hmm. And yet you have, you know, some sham champion here in John Cena. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been good.
Could have been pretty great. Could have been great.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I mean, that's, you know, Vince should have stayed on brand. I mean, the thing is, they did mention, you know, Michael Cole brought up on commentary, you know, the Bret Hart Montreal Screwjob stuff, how Vince wasn't going to, and so obviously there were shades of that here. But the idea that Vince doesn't, you know, out of kayfabe, doesn't recognize other wrestling promotions or refuses to.
I know.
Should have been brought. Fine, go ahead and defend it in your backyard somewhere. But I mean, that would have been cool. Like, you know, like Punk came back last year to like that small high school gymnasium show.
Yeah,
you know, have him defended in some small promotion. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know. There's so many interesting story options they could have pursued with it, and they did none of it.
He comes back and the title it's like a touring guitar case. It has all sorts of stickers on it
and stuff
from
on
all
it,
the different promotions and states. All right, friendos, thanks so much for hanging out with us during our Money in the Bank 2011 review. Thanks to Bryce Williams for the donation and suggesting Money in the Bank 2011. Mm-hmm. We've got a couple more of these to get through, and then maybe we'll keep on doing these going in reviews.
It's fun to do once a month.
They're a lot of fun to do, exactly. So thanks so much. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.